Did you receive the notice? We're good. Okay, great.
Yes.
Yeah, so good morning to our trash trap, litter trap partners. Good morning to our SEWA youth lead partners. Welcome from the Lower Raritan Watershed Partnership. And yeah, including myself from the board, we have Anton Getz and Dr. Johnny Meyer, who the SEWA youth have been working with for the last several months to realize a pretty interesting set of analytics as well as recommendations. Before I hand it off to Dr. Johnny, I just want you all to see what was in the litter trap this weekend and what was removed from the litter trap this weekend, with huge thanks to Anton and Jens and other folks from the New Jersey Litter Picker group. It came down to lend a hand with this. So yeah, with that, Johnny, I don't know if you have any after photos. I don't know if I sent you an after photo from the event this Sunday, the clean out of the trap, but this is the before. So
Amazing.
yeah, it's all yours, Johnny, and the Save a Youth.
Great. Well, I'm going to share screen to bring up the presentation. I've already got the litter trap up here. Let's see. And then Team Seva, you guys just tell me when to. I'm going to pass it off on to you in just a second. And when I do, um, let's see. Okay, can everyone see the title screen of the slideshow?
Yes.
Is that what we're showing? All right, great. Well, welcome everyone. I really enjoyed working this summer with Yash, Asmi, Ashwin, Nilesh, and Pravith. Pravith can't be here with us today. He's out of town, but we'll have the rest of the team here, and they're going to introduce. They're going to particularly look at some of the troubles that came across in the course of looking at the litter trap, and they'll also share their perspective. At the conclusion, I'd like to save questions and comments for the end. Let's let them get through their presentation. And then when you do have comments, it'd be great to have questions are completely welcome. And also if you have feedback, maybe couching it in terms of sustain and improve, like something that you liked about what they did, but then how could it be done better? And it's a great learning opportunity for not just them, but for me too, since I'm still relatively new to this project, and you guys have been at this for a long time, and we really appreciate your expertise. So the Green Brook Litter Tap. With that, I'm going to hand it off to Nilesh for the to do the introduction.
Good morning. This is the introduction. Yes. Yeah, we can swap screens now. Where are we? And what is the litter trap? Uh, so the first town that the litter trap's between is Green Brook Township, which currently has population 7,200 and 4.6 square miles. Green Brook is home of Washington Rock State Park, where George Washington and Marquis de Lafayette watched the movement of the British soldiers during the American Revolutionary War. The township takes its name from Green Brook, which passes through the township, and where the trap is. You can see I marked out the brook and where the litter trap is. Uh, Dunellen is the second township, nicknamed the Railroad Town. The New Market Station, built in 1867, became part of the Central Railroad of New Jersey and gave the town a lot of popularity, and most of the population moved in from there. It has a population of 7,200 in 1.06 square miles, and it's home to the Art Color Factory, built in 1925, which produced as much 10 million magazines a month. Now let's get to the actual litter trap itself. The Green Brook Bandit litter trap is a floating cage anchored to the bank of the brook by two booms. The floating debris gets caught in the funnel structure, and the water keeps flowing past. The litter is periodically collected by municipal staff, but this summer, SEWA volunteers also collected and analyzed litter each week. The trap makes it easy to see what types of litter are flowing through the waterways. We saw a lot of styrofoam, a lot of plastic bottles, a lot of waste. We caught some weird things in there too, which will come up later probably. And catching the litter helps take pollutants out of the ecosystem to be properly disposed so that the wildlife doesn't eat it. We've seen a lot of deer and ducks pass through the brook on the trail cam, and taking the litter out would be really helpful for them. In theory, if we can see what type of litter is most prevalent, there can be action to better control and dispose of it. So if we see the amount of styrofoam we see was so much, we know that there needs to be some sort of control over it. In theory, we can show this as proof that there's too much in the environment.
Now we're
Okay.
going to move to some broader context.
Sorry, Osmi. Yeah, and so now we'll move to Osmi with the broader context.
So as Nilesh said, this was a weekly project that we did for about 10 weeks. And the main focus that we had was to look at storms because this was the most impactful event that happened during the course of our research. And we felt it wasn't enough to just look at how it impacted the litter trap, but rather also the residents of the nearby towns of Dunellen and Green Brook. So this storm, the July 14th one, was probably the worst storm we had ever encountered. It had been a state of emergency for all 21 counties in New Jersey, and it led to Route 22 and 28 to be closed in order to clean off debris and for emergency road repairs. As you can see on the leftmost image, the height of the storm was about 3 foot and 6 inches, and that was above ground. If we look at places nearby, the heights got up to about 7 feet. And because of this increased flow of water, it resulted in houses getting flooded out. The foundation of buildings were damaged and in danger of collapsing. And we even saw outside, like after our litter trap collection, we would see people with bags of their belongings outside of their houses because sometimes their basement floors would get completely flooded out and they wouldn't be able to keep anything that they had. 40 cars were abandoned on this exact day because of the amount of water that went into the cars, and people couldn't even open them. 2 women were killed in Plainfield, and trees fell onto houses and basically destroyed them. If we look to the rightmost image, it shows how the trees on the bank are what was the tree roots on the bank are what was holding the soil together. On this occasion, the litter trap completely flung out and out of its place, and all the litter that was collected went into both sides of the bank. And it was really interesting for us to see how the roots were able to hold the bank together and how important they were as well to this ecosystem.
Great.
And now we're going to get into the July 31st storm. So this wasn't nearly as bad compared to the July 14th storm. However, we did have about 7 inches of rain and some flash flood warnings. And as you can see in the pictures, we had a large amount of branches and parts of tree logs stuck under the litter trap, and it took us a very long time to get everything out. There was a large amount of trash, but a lot of natural material, and we thought, maybe this could be a great way to collect trash, because especially with tiny pieces of styrofoam, this was able to cling on to the natural materials, and it could be a better way to collect pieces of styrofoam that tend to go past the litter trap's holes, and maybe be a better way to collect styrofoam in particular. But a lot of the patterns that we noticed with storms in particular were that we received a large amount of trash, mostly because of the rise in water level, but also because a lot of these storms tended to be extremely windy and could have possibly pushed trash bins down and caused the large amount of trash to flow into the water because of all this trash coming in. So we had an issue with our trash collection, and I know Nilesh said that we collected a lot of very strange objects, and I know the LRWP has a paper called the trash tally where we're able to write down all the category we write down our collection based on the categories that they had. However, a lot of these categories tended to be very broad, and we couldn't record a majority of our collection items because they didn't fit in these set categories. And there were also not enough spaces at the bottom to list out all the different items that we got, because some days there would be a large amount of items and some days we would have almost nothing. And so with the help of my colleagues, we developed the litter trap questionnaire. So it separates the waste from inside and outside, and it has a majority of different categories like plastic, styrofoam, glass, paper, and a majority of other and a various amount of other items. And hopefully this will be an easier way to record data when it comes to collecting the litter, will be found in the litter trap, and could be beneficial when we are analyzing what is the most prevalent items coming in and maybe how we can stop that in the future.
Great. Thank you so much, Asmi. And next up, do we have Yash next?
Yeah, I'll go over the issues with the current design of the litter trap. Next slide. In areas with fewer trees, the soil was much less stable, and the large roots from the nearby trees normally helped hold the soil together and protect the stream bank. In the picture, you can see how the soil behind the tree roots stays tightly packed, while soil in front of the tree roots has already eroded away. This picture was from after a heavy storm, specifically the July 14th storm, showing which parts of the soil structure would survive during the strong rain. Next slide. So now here you can see three different equations which relate three variables: water flow speed, wind speed, and the pressure on the trap. The first equation just shows how the water flow speed relates to the wind speed. And the basic idea with this equation is that the higher the wind speed, the higher the water flow speed, but the wind speed can also go against the water flow, decreasing the water flow speed. Next slide. Now we have our second equation, which uses the drag force equation to relate the force on the litter trap with the velocity of the water. In here, P just means the density of the water. CD is something called the drag constant, which basically just accounts for the shape of the litter trap and how much drag that shape creates. And then A is the area of the litter trap that's actually being hit, and V water is just velocity of water. But it's important to note that V water gets squared, because that's what creates this exponential relationship that you can see in the graph, showing that even a small increase in the velocity of water can increase the pressure on the trap by a lot more. For the final equation, we have the pressure trap versus the wind speed, and the way we got here was just by substituting the velocity of water in the second equation with the first equation. This equation also shows the same thing as the previous one, that even a little increase in the wind will increase the pressure on the trap by much more. And it's important to note that the graph cuts it off at 0, meaning that the current doesn't ever go backwards. Next slide. So now let's look at the July 14th storm, which is really important because during this storm was when the litter trap broke. The July 14th storm brought together all these previous problems. Because the pole was placed in an area with very few trees, the soil underneath it was already weak and vulnerable to erosion. At the same time, the storm's strong winds increased the speed of water, which dramatically raised the pressure pushing on the trap. Ultimately, the trap ended up breaking with one of the poles the soil underneath one of the poles completely got destroyed, meaning that one of the support poles was completely taken out of the dirt. When these two issues came together, the trap was pushed beyond what it was designed to handle, and the water levels rose by several feet, the pressure on the structure spiked, and the storm was ultimately exposed to weaknesses in the trap placement and support design. The issues mentioned here are fatal structural flaws that could and did lead to the litter trap breaking. However, it's also important to note that the trap has some other issues as well. When the basket of the trap started to overflow, litter got stuck underneath, lifting the trap up and allowing other litter to slide underneath it. We also noticed small pieces of styrofoam from packaging would easily slip through the trap. Every week, we would find more and more of this styrofoam, making it a notable issue.
Great. All right. Well said, Yash. Thank you. Good job,
Yeah, I'll be
everyone.
taking the solutions as well since Parvit isn't here.
Okay. Thank you, Yash.
Yeah. Our current litter trap design struggles during extreme weather, especially during major storms. To keep this from happening again, we need a structure that is stronger and more stable so it can handle those intense conditions. By improving the overall design, the trap will be able to perform well during both normal water flow and during flood level events. We also took action to strengthen the area around the trap itself. By seeding more vegetation, we're hoping to reinforce the bank with the root systems. These root systems from these plants will create a more stable soil base, which will make the entire structure much more resilient over time. Next slide. One of the most important steps moving forward is improving where and how the trap is anchored. Relocating the trap to an area with stronger natural anchors will greatly reduce the risk of it being dislodged during storms. Large, healthy trees provide a strong root system and can hold the support cable much more securely than the weaker soil where the pole was originally placed. Another option is tying the trap directly into the bridge infrastructure. The bridge is already designed to withstand these high water levels in intense weather, so using it as an anchor point would add a much higher level of stability. Next slide. Another improvement we can make is by replacing the cylindrical beams that hold together the trap with more streamlined support shapes. Cylinders create a lot of drag, which increase the force that fast-moving water puts on the trap during storms. By switching to support shapes more like a teardrop, which you could see in the picture, or a flat taper pole, we can significantly reduce that drag. These streamlined shapes lower the drag constant, which you might remember before from the equations. The drag constant is the coefficient that accounts for how the shape of the trap affects the pressure acting on it based on the drag. You might remember this variable, and a lower drag constant means that the trap experiences less force at the same water speed, which makes the entire structure more resistant to storm level currents and reduces the chance of another failure.
All right. Great. Thank you, Yash. And now let's pass it on to Ashwin.
Moving to the conclusion. In total, we collected around 1,115 pieces of litter collected, and we found around 64% of it inside the trap. However, concerningly enough, we found almost a third outside the trap. These would be located in the regions to the side, such as the riverbanks, and also past the trap. There were also some aisles where we'd find loads of trash, including stuff like plastic bottles, caps, and more. Next slide, please. In retrospect, I think serving here in the LRWP trap, it served as a valuable learning experience for us students at SEWA Central Jersey. And these litter traps seem to have some inherent flaws, as seen in the trap's collapse. And going back to Yash over there, I think his idea of changing out the poles or adding more poles would also help a lot in just counteracting the increased flows of the water during storms. Next slide. I think for the future, it's important to implement proper education on things like waste disposal and utilize better storm drains and expand public garbage routes to redirect any sort of commercial trash away from the river so the river doesn't get used as a dumping off point into the ocean. And there are many biodegradable alternatives to plastic nowadays, so we can also encourage people to use those, such as biodegradable spoons, forks. We found a lot of those, and implement people to use things such as reusable bottles in order to counteract all the bottles that we found in the trap as well. And finally, we can implement legislative effort in involving the trap itself, as by making stricter garbage regulations and dumping regulations overall, we can reduce a lot of the trash that's being thrown in the river because of companies trying to get around the law. Excellent. For the future of the trap design for the time being can remain the same until we can successfully change it somehow or find the budget to change it. And I think a quick fix temporarily would just be to use more poles to provide a sturdier balance, but it wouldn't be a good solution for the long run. And finally, to conclude off this presentation, the accident was a tragic one, but it proved us students can overcome this challenge and problem solve to create a better trap, counter pollution and littering on the Green Brook stream. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And so I think that now is a great time for questions and comments.
Sure, I'll start off. I just want to say thank you all for taking the time and dedicating your summer to this project. I think it's very useful and beneficial for us to hear your all's feedback and how we might be able to better litter trap projects in the future. So big kudos. Thank you guys so much. Just a couple questions. I know you all mentioned using more natural anchors. Do you believe that the poles should be removed or replaced completely in place of, using trees that are already standing, or I think we mentioned the bridge abutments. So do you believe that the natural anchors would be more beneficial, or could we still use poles but maybe place them a little bit more strategically?
I can answer this one if we want to.
Sure.
We could do either option. Of course, the natural solution of anchoring to a tree could work out either way, depending on how the root structure is. If the root structure is good, it won't be taken out by storm. But if it gets a disease, or if the root structure is not as good as we hoped, it could get knocked over really easily, and that would just defeat the entire purpose of anchoring to a tree. Using a better position pole, that would be good, because we can control where exactly we put those poles, how those poles are constructed, and where it's anchored. That would be really beneficial. And with the tree, if we use the wrong type of strap, it can saw through the tree over time as more forces are acted on it. Of course, that can happen with a man-made pole too, but that would be less with metal than it will be with bark. Yeah.
Thank you. Just a follow-up for if we used a better position for the pole, do you believe if we went deeper or used a different type of pole anchor that it could help secure the trap long term? Heather, I'm not sure if we remember how deep these poles went into the ground. Sorry.
Dr. John, do you remember how deep they are?
Yeah, I mean, I do, but yeah, I think they're only about 9 inches deep.
Yeah.
The one that gave way in particular was about that deep.
Yeah, it wasn't that deep into the ground, so it was really prone to erosion. Anchoring it deeper into the ground would help a lot, especially if we anchored it somewhere where there is root structure, where there is good root structure. That rooting will keep it from eroding. We could also, as we said in the slides, anchor it to the concrete structure that we already have. That's very erosion resistant. It's made to be erosion resistant. It's made to be sturdy. It's made to be good, and it would be a very good solution, like option to anchor there.
I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also think it's important to know, adding on to what Nilesh said, it's the soil underneath the pole that got completely destroyed. So even if that pole was anchored more deep into the ground, the soil there still got completely destroyed. The poles still would have gotten taken out. So I think more than anchoring it deep, it's the placement that matters because the soil behind many of these trees was still there, but the soil closer to the edge of the bank was kind of taken out. So it doesn't matter how deep it went.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Yash. It was the entire bank that went away, didn't it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe not only depth, but maybe higher up on the bank or
Higher up
further
on the
away. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you. Just one other question. I know we mentioned the shape of the booms. So the cylinders obviously create more drag. If we could change the shape of those, we might have less pressure on the trap. Did you all have any thought on if the shape of the trap basket itself caused issues, or if you all had any ideas on how to improve that shape? If
I
not,
feel
that's
like
okay.
the shape of the basket mattered less because it was hollow, whereas the shape of the booms weren't like the water couldn't go through the boom. It had to push directly against it, which was the whole idea because nothing was supposed to go through the booms to begin with. But since the basket was like you could see in this picture, since the basket was hollow, the water was able to go straight through it. So it didn't matter as much on the basket as it did for the boom, which is kind of why we highlighted that. And also, I just want to put this out there. Another idea we had for reducing the pressure was something similar to a dog collar system, where the trap would have some sort of give and it can move along the stream when it's pressured, like a dog collar almost.
It was the suspension, like the
Yeah.
elastic material that some dog collars have to reduce shock. So if a sudden burst of water came, it wouldn't snap. It would tug on it and then return to resting. I do want to add, when those storms came, a lot of trash, apart from being washed from the outside, was also dislodged from the banks. Um, we found a lot of it scattered around, not really in the trap because it was weighed down by soil and dirt. But it was basically a lot of it got opened up. We saw trash we couldn't see because it was buried too deep into the soil. We found a mattress too, I think, after like near the end. It's not all out. And yeah, I feel like that's really important to mention.
Thank you. I like the idea of the suspension system, giving the trap a little bit more give. I will let others chime in, and I might have more questions later. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I can go. Guys, you did a fantastic job here with the presentation. Um, I was very surprised to see the original picture and how much was collected at that one point after the storm. Is there anything that you guys saw in that trap that just you kind of shook your head and said, I cannot believe that this is actually going down the stream?
Point actually during the banks, we found an entire. Okay, so do you know one of those tool sets that a lot of people use? We found a half of those and it had all the screws in it. So we're not really sure how it got there, nor how it's very easy to tell how it got through the trap. It's obviously very heavy. The trap's floating on top, so it kind of just pushed on through the deep current. But it's very rare to see such a heavy object that's still completely intact. And so we were just kind of really confused at how that got there.
I feel like another thing that I thought was really odd to find in the trap was the bottom of one of those like basketball hoops that you would normally put in your front yard or on your driveway. Seeing the bottom of that, it's also like the whole base of it. It questions us like it it makes us question like how did it even get there? How is this even possible for it to manage to get, let alone in the bank, or in the trap itself.
Yeah, we saw a lot of trash. We saw a wax melter, we believe, or like like a odorizer. We don't know. It was a heavy chunk and it was just in the soil. A lot of the heavier stuff that's what was weird. The lighter stuff, like the bottles, the styrofoam, the amount of styrofoam really surprised us because every single week we would see a huge amount of it. It would either be in chunks or it would just be these tiny little beads that we couldn't collect like at all. And whenever we started taking trash, it would just get dislodged and flow down the stream without us having time to collect it. We tried as best as we could, of course, but it was really surprising to see the amount and how much we couldn't get because of just design and how small it was.
Gotcha. That that little smaller litter trap really does collect a lot of stuff, and it just isn't is impressive. How often you guys are going down there to check it out? And when you do go down there, is it like when I say this, I'm not sure how else to relate, but kind of like Christmas morning, like what do I get now?
It's more of, oh no, what do we get now?
Well,
We went there every week on every Saturday. Usually, if unless it was either a storm or something else.
nice, nice. I have two more questions that I want to hold up for the rest of the group. The first one of the two are I do follow the post from LRWP, and I know at the end of August there was one that was put out with a picture. Who was a lucky person to run across the fishing spider?
That would have
Yeah.
been me.
Oh yeah, it was Ashwin, yeah.
Yeah.
Did that throw you back a little bit?
No, I actually like spiders, so I thought it was
Yeah,
pretty cool.
nice. That was a pretty big one. I saw that picture and I was like, oh man, that they're brave souls there. Last question I have is, um, it seems like you guys are very much into this, which I truly appreciate. Which is the reasons why we are happy to see this being so well managed. But do you guys find yourselves at all speaking about this litter trap outside of just like situations like this? Are you talking to friends or anybody else, just kind of spreading the word of the cool job that this does and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, actually, I found
Yeah.
myself talking with my friends a lot about it.
Yeah, me too. Like, especially since I have a lot of friends in like environmental or like sciences, I like speaking about it.
Have you brought them down to see it, or did they have any interest in checking it out too?
I've not mentioned like bring him down. I hadn't even thought about that. That sounds like a good idea now though.
Cool. I I appreciate your guys' time and effort. It's a great job that you're doing down there, and thank you very much for your presentation and time this morning.
Thank you for your time too.
Let me just jump in and say this is fantastic. This is just really a tremendous effort. Huge thanks to the SEWA youth leads. Huge thanks to the parents of the SEWA youth, yeah, for sure. And of course to Dr. Johnny for coordinating this 10-week project. Yeah, it was a really wonderful brainstorm that the Dr. Johnny and the SEWA youth had around how to engage your interests in engineering. Yeah, so just a tiny bit of background for the trustees. The youth had originally signed up to join us for pathogens monitoring. And we thought that would be more opportunity for them to brainstorm fixes and to really tell a story about an environmental device like this, through work on this project, more so than the pathogens monitoring work where we have to just fill out a form and report using a QUAP. So this was a fantastic opportunity to let students be creative, and boy, were you amazingly creative. So huge thanks for these ideas. We'll save this video, share it with the Stormwater Solutions partners, the manufacturers of this device, and no doubt they will learn a ton from this.
Yeah, y'all did really well. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Real quick before we hop off, do we have time for one more question?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry. Okay. I know you all had mentioned that the trap was becoming so full that it was starting to float up and litter was going underneath the boom system and the trap itself. I'm not sure of the clean out schedule. Do you believe that it needs to be cleaned out more frequently and that would help reduce, the litter trap floating up and allowing litter to go underneath the system?
Yeah, I think this highly depended on the course of events over the week. So you might remember the picture from the July 31st storm, and there's a lot of logs and branches stuck underneath the trap, which allowed things to go underneath. So in an instance like that, the trap needed to be cleaned almost immediately, or else it would have basically no effect. But there's some weeks where we had a lot less, and the trap could still have taken in more litter before it needed to be cleaned out. So rather than like a certain week schedule or something like that, it really depends on the events that led up to the day.
Something interesting that the student team observed, and then Anton observed separately, but they both observed that woody debris inside the trap was really good at catching plastics and styrofoam, and that without that woody debris, trash often tended to bob up and over the trap. But once woody debris started to collect, then plastics also would start to accumulate. That was an interesting thing that was pretty consistent. I think Anton had a huge haul this past weekend with the LRWP, and it like massive haul this weekend, and a lot of it I think was from that's incredible. I mean that's a bigger pile up than we had this summer in any of the weeks. I mean, of course, we had a storm take out the trap, but which prevented the capture. But that's an interesting thing. It kind of makes me wonder about adding some woody debris intentionally to the trap in order to help catch flows, whether that be maybe cane or something like that.
Yeah. Something else I want to add, the slits at the back of the trap were just big enough to let flat pieces of debris through, like water bottles, smaller water bottles. Like if the woody debris wasn't there, even big pieces of litter would just flow right through because the opening was too big. I think there could be some design on that to help, but I am not sure exactly what that would be.
Right, because it would make sense to lessen those spaces, but then if you think about it, then that could create more drag. So I think that's the fine line, but that's very interesting.
And another thing about like the making like the hole smaller is we do have a lot of wildlife that does come through the stream, and possibly making the hole smaller could cause the wildlife to get trapped in the litter trap. And because it's around so many types of plastics, styrofoams, even just indulging that could end up killing the wildlife. So we have to also be a little bit mindful about that.
Yeah, of course.
Point. Thank you.
It's certainly not a perfect system, but in general, it's amazing what it actually is capturing and what you guys are taking out of the whole system in general. I would love to see another one or two placed in other strategic places around the township and or county to see what other things float down in different places. But it's not a perfect system, but I think it's working extremely well.
Mike, I was going to. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was saying, and I like the idea of being mindful of if it's not perfect, what is it also not not harming, and it's not harming probably the wildlife that you had mentioned as well. So that's a good way of, like pluses or minuses there. Go ahead,
Like
Katie.
I
Sorry.
was, no, it's okay. I was going to say the same thing in terms of strategically placing additional traps throughout the brook, and maybe trying to do a little bit of research about pinpointing some sources as to where the trash comes in at. Where could we place additional traps to help reduce the amount that the single trap is capturing? I think that would be kind of our next step if we were to implement other trash traps in this area. Um, I think that's all I have. Again, I just want to say thank you to Dr. Johnny, and thank you to the SEWA students. Great job, very impressive, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Ooh, one thing that I just thought about like the wildlife. Sorry. I we noticed a lot of like bugs and stuff eating organic material in the trap. That's what attracted the spiders. So that's a real like that's one of the consequences of having that trap. It catches a lot of organic material, so a lot of bugs and fish just come crowding to the trap to eat from it because it has a lot of organic and inorganic material.
It almost creates its own little micro habitat.
It does, yeah.
Great.
Sounds like I got myself a new fishing spot right downstream.
There's a massive carp there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, massive.
Nice.
Well,
What's its name? Do you guys name it yet?
No name.
All right.
so
Don't
come
know.
out in the spring in January or February when we install the eel habitat, the artificial eel habitat, so which is just upstream of the litter trap. So fishing, yeah, eel studies, yeah, everything you want and more.
Awesome.
Yeah. So any other comments, suggestions? Yeah, aside from just kudos to SEWA Youth for sure.
Hey there, it's Kumar here, one of the parents for these kids. I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for supporting these kids. It's been an amazing summer with John, and they look up to John for all questions and all answers. And John has been an amazing mentor for these kids, and can't appreciate him enough. And Heather for giving us this opportunity to learn something new, to give back to the community and everything, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for like the opportunity and the guidance and everything. We wouldn't have gotten this opportunity without the coordination of so many people.
Y'all were fantastic. You were, you guys were completely worth the effort. And I really appreciated all the support from the students and from the LRWP and from the trustees. So thank you all. It was it was really fun. One of the best.
Great. Well, I'm going to stop recording and then we can talk